I don't think a lot of the reflection at all in any of them. It's all about, and as it would be in the House of Representatives, retaining power. Because in this case, the two big parties are in government together and losing market share all the time, and market share in this case is elections. It's not very good. You know, that's somewhat worrisome to me that they're easy pickings for the LaFontaines of the world, because all he has to do is be against things. He doesn't have to do anything. I'm against, you know, these people in collusion, and it's a good narrative. It's a good narrative. I think the Greens are probably the most interesting party to me outside, because their leadership are having an argument about what are we for? Are we libertarian or not? Are we really free market or not? Because all our hippie kind of ethos, a lot of us have been rather successful, and we're not real happy with the tax rate, and we're not happy with the government, which we used to see as, I believe, the man, telling us what to do. So there is a libertarian streak there, which means they and the Frees can work together, except, as you both know, culturally they're very different kinds of people. Indeed, I think they're beginning to have a non-tribal argument, which is interesting. Too often, German politics is tribal. American politics can be very tribal too. But the SPD seems to me spend their time being afraid of the left. That's all they talk about to me. You know, they're terrified of the Linke, don't know what to do, want the market share back. Do they move left? Do they stay in the center? They don't know. The CDU are scared because 3 of the 5 parties are on the center left, and so there's an inbuilt majority against them in the medium term. The smarter ones there are figuring that out, meaning they've got to flirt with the Greens. Well, that's a smart tactical move, but my answer would be on the basis of what policies. Okay, the politics, you're right, I'm very clever. Now, what policies do you agree with with the Greens? Can you dangle in front of them? The environment is an obvious one, it would seem to me. Good, thanks, John, writing the environment. If they're having to write down the word environment, there's a problem. I'm sitting over a beer coming up with this. So they're a couple steps behind, but they are seeing the political problem there, I think, a little bit. The Free Democrats, in theory, I should vote for them, given my ideological proclivities. I couldn't vote for them because I know them. Let me put it like that. There are some good guys there, but generally I know them. If I were voting here, that puts me in a terrible spot. Again, the Greens are interesting, and the Linke are sitting, observing market share go down. I worry a little bit about what happens here when the economic numbers, which are so horrible, quarter-on-quarter numbers just came out 7% down in Germany. I mean, that's an unbelievable number. When the kind of automatic stabilizers, the shock absorbers begin to wear thin, I worry about the summer here and these outside parties sniping. But what do I think about the reflection in general? Not a whole heck of a lot, but again, part of it is what you guys were saying, systemic. If the two major parties are in power, nobody really lost, so there is no real incentive to think through what we're doing, particularly if the SPD lose, if the CDU are the largest vote getter. That's a really interesting moment for, I think, what you're talking about, because do they then say, we really need to go into opposition and not just run a technocrat like Steinmeier and really think through, are we for Schroeder's reforms or are we really not? You know, that's an issue that needs to be sorted out to a majority's happiness. Or do they go back into a grand coalition where you don't have this discussion yet again, not much gets done, these other 3 parties gain market share, and aren't very reflective. So to me, that's almost the key moment. If nobody wins the majority, and nobody will, and the CDU come first, which they probably will, and the SPD comes second, which they will. I mean, there's a lot we know. What did the SPD do? Becomes key to the whole system. But if I had to pick a reflective group, it'd be the Greens, because there's this elite that get these changes, and then they say, but the people that vote for us are not with us on this stuff at all. You know, going into coalition with the CDU for the Green rank and file is a nightmare. And even if it's not over whispers here with the Green elite. Well, again, I'd say what we said earlier, talk to them. You know, that's your job. And if you really believe that, start a new party or move this party there. But well, no, that's very difficult. Yeah, that's why we pay you. It is very difficult. But that's where they are. But that to me is another interesting cliff moment. Do they jump and say to their, you know, have a discussion with their rank and file? You know, sometimes we're going to have to agree with the Frees and the CDU and the SPD. And if we're flexible and know what we stand for, we can be the kingmakers of this new system. We can really affect change from within. Or do we want to be an outside party, you know, back to our throwing bricks at cops days and not grow up? It's up to them. It's up to them. But have the discussion. There are too few discussions here. And when there are discussions, they're over a drink in a quiet corner and they're off the record. From an American point of view, with an America getting weaker in the world relatively, with Europe getting weaker relatively, of those two things I'm certain. Actually, that means that structurally it behooves us to work together more, not less. Because if we want to set the terms of the world, we need to agree on some basic stuff we don't agree on. And it means our political systems have to be responsive to each other and to internal domestic realities. And so I'm all for what you're doing. We need it because in 10 years we won't be able to set those terms, either of us. And then at best, the United States turns to Asia even more than it is, which it already is, as we've said, and works with people in a totally realist, Palmerstonian type interest-based way. There goes any human rights agenda. It's already, in my view, almost dead. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton begging the Chinese to buy our paper at a loss and not talking about Tibet. That's the future. She's a left-wing Democrat human rights type. And if she won't bring it up, Republicans won't bring it up. And that's because we realize this new world is different. They may not know what it is, but they know it's different. And I give them that. So we've got about 10 years to get our act together. After that, the world will happen without us. It doesn't sit still. And so I think you're right to see the basis to looking at this is domestic, is political, is structural. Because every single time I get somewhere with the Germans at a meeting, we then say, John, it is always fun to play this chess game with you, but I have to go back now to my constituents in the real world where we both know nothing will happen. And I sit on the plane ride back with the Americans and say, well, 8 years to go, 7 years to go, 6 years to go. You know, there is a sense of time changing here. And what you're doing, I think, is really important. And it's also, you know, as somebody who believes in republics, you know, I have two pictures on my wall at home. One is of Adams, one is of Jefferson. I bought the Udon bust for a ridiculous amount of money after a speech, so I can always look at Mr. Jefferson. It keeps me honest. They need to have links with people. And one of the best thing about Obama is that link was restored. I still have people come up to me on the street and say, I saw you on TV talking about Obama, and here's what I think about Obama. And nobody ever did that. I sit in an airport in Iowa. I just did a book tour, and you meet people who care. Again, I think that's great. If the Republicans can do that, we're in okay shape. But I want the Germans to do that. The British system is a disaster right now, as we can see from their MPs sticking their nose in the trough. And the French system is so elitist that if you don't go to l'École Nationale, you aren't going to be prime minister. I mean, that's crazy. That's like only Harvard people get to go. Well, occasionally we elect people from Princeton and Yale too, and every once in a while the Naval Academy or something. But the problem with the demos is really at base where we get, because again, we can all agree on policy. We can get it 1,000% right. And if no one acts on it, if we don't link up with our peoples and explain things, then we're not doing our job, first of all. And second, nothing will happen. And that's where we are. So I think this is well worth the coffee.